Leftover lasagna.
Leftover lasagna.
Lasagna? No way.
It's a type of sandwich.
Some kind of gross pasta. Leftover lasagna is a podcast
hosted
by
by
my
Nitin
charge
Sundar and Tony Uncle. Leftover lasagna.
Very funny name.
Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna, the podcast that's stored away in the furthest recesses of your fridge. The podcast that may not look as fancily packed as the many sachets of oregano, chili flakes, and ketchup in the top shelf, but a podcast that you will discover many days later when a crazy hunger pang hits you on a hungover morning, and against better judgment, you consume it, leaving you with many questions such as: Is this safe? Why do I like this so much? And Tamil Nadu kaise pahunchega bhai? I am Tony. And joining me, you'll need 1,000 sheets to consume him, and you'll still feel satiated after. A man with the lightness and structural integrity of a meal foil. He can make a meal of most things and foil your fantasies by appearing in them. The one and only Nitin Sundar. Say hi.
What is a meal foil?
Oh, a meal foil, basically, it's spelled MILLE, which is 1,000. So it's 1,000 sheets. It's puff pastry with 1,000 sheets, basically. It's delicate French puffs.
Not bad. I think since we are talking about censorship today, I think, Tony, you preemptively decided not to come up with some adulterated intro for me. Because if you had, then I would have asked you to apologize and take it down. So,
Well,
I
I've
was
kept
ready
it
to
at
do.
the
Context
innuendo level, 1,000 sheets and all. So,
But that really was just a reference to leftover lasagna, right? And the various
correct.
sheets.
Uncensored intro would have been what? He causes an earthquake wherever he goes, whether it's in your steel plate or your tectonic plates.
Okay, enough. Yeah, we don't need
On your
options.
plate.
Thank you. Yeah, we're glad.
Okay, Nitin, it's been a while since we recorded. We're recording in a new financial year, 2nd April,
Oh.
after our momentous two-part episode. But in the interim, I believe you went to yet another country to bring back participation medals for your frisbee team. And in the process, you caused an earthquake. Tell us
Yeah.
about the ultimate frisbee.
Crazy shit. So I spent this weekend at Bangkok. I went to Bangkok to participate in this open frisbee tournament, one of the most popular ones called the Bangkok Hat. So a hat tournament is one in which names of players go into a hat, and teams are formed at random. So you pretty much end up playing with a bunch of strangers. Anyway, so I land in Bangkok, get off at the airport, take this train into the city, get off the train, and I'm pushing my suitcase to the hotel. And I see that there are lots of people on the streets. It's Friday evening. There are lots of people on the streets, and this is generally seem to be in a buzz. The strange part is everyone had their phones out, and I thought, okay, maybe there's some procession or some celebrity arrival or something that's happening. Except they were all pointing in different directions, but towards the sky, right? And this was right in the middle of Bangkok, like the central business. So I had no idea what was going on. Why are people looking at various different buildings and taking photographs? I thought, okay, maybe this country is strange like that. People do strange stuff on Fridays. Maybe these are the TikTokers and this might be a trend or something. And then I felt it. I actually felt, the ground shake a bit. I thought I was dizzy after a long flight and needed to get some food or water or something. But, and then I heard people say the word earthquake a few times, at which point it registered that I just landed in a city that was experiencing a fairly terrible earthquake. And Thailand is actually not on a fault line, unlike, other countries in that region. So it's not actually prepared for earthquakes. The construction doesn't take into account the possibility that there could be earthquakes, etc. But thankfully, there wasn't too much of damage. I think one building unfortunately came down, which was under construction. But other than that, and a few cranes falling here and there, buildings shaking wildly, etc., there wasn't too much of damage. And eventually, I checked into my room like 5 hours later when they eventually let people get in, and I noticed that there were cracks on the walls of my room. And I promptly called the reception and complained, and they said, you know what, there are only few rooms that are actually still habitable because other rooms have been damaged by the shaking. Like things have fallen inside the rooms and all.
Yeah.
So
You want crack on your wall or hole in your wall? These are the
Exactly.
two options. Sir, we have another room which gives you ocean view, but the view is not from a window. It's actually from a freaking wall that has fallen down.
yeah, that was one of the first things, right? They immediately announced that there is no tsunami threat, which put people at ease to some extent. But after that, thankfully things settled down. There were no more aftershocks, and I had a wonderful weekend playing Ultimate Frisbee in Bangkok. And now I'm back in Dubai.
And then yesterday, you went to watch a movie, which I saw last week.
Yeah, you saw parts of it. No, actually, you saw it pre-censor, I'm assuming.
I saw thank you card to Suresh Gopi also, which has now been removed, apparently.
Okay.
So one of the hallmarks of Malayalam cinema is there is like an endless intro at the start, right? Much like
Yeah.
this podcast. They thank everyone. So thank you to Mohanlal, thank you to Mammootty, thank you to Dulquer Salman. It'll say all of these, and like,
Yeah.
and so it said thank you to Suresh Gopi also. And so after this whole controversy, he made them remove it. No thanks.
I don't want to be thanked. You are pulling me in the wrong direction.
Don't play the fool with me, Nigesh. Yeah.
Don't play the
That
fool.
level.
Okay. Yeah, so this is like very classic. The hero intro reveal happens 40 minutes into the film. So we still haven't told what movie we are talking about. So maybe we should go ahead and say that. This is the Malayalam film Empuraan, which released last week with much fanfare. I'm sure if you're into any Indian cinema to whatever extent, you would have definitely heard of this film and maybe even watched it. It's very unlike the usual Malayalam cinema that we have been watching recently, which has largely been smaller slice of life kind of films. This is more of a, I wouldn't say pan-Indian because it doesn't really have actors from across the country as you're seeing in Telugu, Bollywood, Tamil cinema doing now. But it is a film with lots of global themes and it's a very, very high budget film, right? So Empuraan is part 2 of the Lucifer cinematic universe. So Lucifer was a film that was made a few years back, directed by Prithviraj Sukumaran, starring Mohanlal. And Empuraan again, the same pair, the sort of continuation of that story. So it's a sequel, and I believe there is now a third film as well in the works. This film has been in the news before it released, and in even more news after it released because it ran into a lot of trouble.
No, so that, I mean, just to clarify that, that's not what this podcast is about.
Oh shit, I didn't know this.
No, I mean, it is part of it. But the other trend that swept across the world was something that Nitin Sundar ranted about. Famously, Nitin puts the AI in artistic integrity, right? And Nitin, why don't you tell us what your Twitter rant was about?
So this is, of course, the Ghibli trend, which seems to have taken off. So this is my rant from 5 days back. It wasn't really a rant. It was more of an observation. Unless you've been living under a rock, ChatGPT has released a Ghibli filter, which now lets you change any photograph into a Studio Ghibli style image, which is a very distinctive style of image. What is the name of that person who founded it? The Japanese guy? Miyazaki, right? And lots of movies have been made using this Ghibli format, animation movies, which are very popular and very beautiful films, must be said. But now you can convert any image into a Ghibli format image. And people, of course, obviously, like any other trend that takes over the internet, whether it's Dalgona coffee or whatever else, there are millions upon millions of photographs of people posting Ghiblified images of themselves on social media.
So much so that Sam Altman had to step up and say, please stop, our servers are melting. Our employees are crying.
Correct. This is a great use of the Earth's resources, which is that people are creating random Ghibli images using very, very polluting supercomputers, whatever, that are being used to run AI.
And the third thing that happened over the last couple of weeks is Kunal Kamra's comedy special came out on YouTube.
Of course.
And sparked a lot of outrage. And currently, apparently, he's been living in Tamil Nadu for the longest time, which is why he's probably not been arrested because he moved Madras High Court to get anticipatory bail till 7th April or something like that. But broadly, these are the contours that we wanted to discuss today around artistic integrity, around control, and all of that, right? And rightly, I'm wearing a BCCI t-shirt. This is for the 2023 World Cup, right? And that speaks because if you look at cricket boards around the world, ECB has England Cricket Board. It's Cricket Australia for Australia. I guess PCB is Pakistan Cricket Board. India is probably the only one with a control in its title. It's Board of Control for Cricket in India, right?
Correct.
And so one of the things that Murli Gobi, who is the writer of Empuraan, had mentioned. Why am I saying Empuraan like I'm a fucking fake Malu? Empuraan.
Empuraan. Wait. Before we
Empuraan.
proceed, I have to call this out. Empuraan, of course, is a pan-Indian release. So it has been released in Tamil as well, amongst other languages. Like we mentioned, it is Lucifer Part 2. So the abbreviation for the film is L2E. So Lucifer 2 Empuraan. And there is a stylized logo that they created for this film where L2 is combined into one character, after which Empuraan is written. Except if you look at the way that thing has been written, so the letter U in Tamil looks a lot like the number 2.
Correct.
So it now looks like U Empuran, which if you are Tamilian, you can read it as Umbaran, which in Tamil, in very, very colloquial Tamil, means he is fucking. Umbaran. Starring
He's
Mohanlal.
sucking the.
Umburan, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, sucking, fucking, same shit. What difference? Yes. Yeah. He's
Different
sucking.
things.
So anyway, Tamil audience's reaction was, what is Mohanlal up to these days? Okay. Anyway, so
what I was saying was the writer of Empuraan, that is Murli Gobi, who was in the past being accused by elements in Kerala of being completely right wing, right? Because his earlier movie that he wrote was called Left, Right, Left, which was an outright takedown of the left and of Pinarayi Vijayan in particular, etc., etc. Right? So he was commenting about how India has a censor board as opposed to a certification board, right? And that really restricts his imagination as a script writer, because as he's writing stuff, he's automatically thinking, oh, this is going to get censored. And the difference between a censor and a certification is that in normal creative countries, you are allowed 100% freedom of speech, which means you make the movie you want to make, and then they just slap on a certification saying who's allowed to watch it, right? Who's allowed to means what is the guidance for this?
Who's supposed
should
to?
It be all audience, or should it be like parental guidance, or is it adults only, or is it R rated, etc., etc. In India, that's not the case. Since the board, while it has changed from Central Board of Film Censorship, I think, to Central Board of Film Certification, they still censor movies, which means they can mute out parts, they can ask you to change things, they can ask you to cut out parts. So his point was that while writing a movie, you sort of automatically fall into that framework, which is why great movies do not get. His example was I think the question to him was, why doesn't a movie like Pulp Fiction get made in India or something, right? And he was talking about how this sort of restricts the creativity outright, right? So on one end of the spectrum, we're talking about governments wanting to control creativity, and on the other end, we are probably talking about AI saying what the fuck is creativity, right? So that is the broad 100,000 sheets of things that we want to wade into today.
Fantastic. Yeah. So let's wade right into it. Let's start with the Ghibli trend, right?
So I'll just start off by saying I'm very what is the word? Neutral, agnostic, disinterested about this, because the only reason I didn't make a Ghibli-ized photo was because I don't have ChatGPT premium or whatever is required, right? And I generally don't use AI at all. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's better for you to create stuff on your own. That's what I find more fulfillment in, right? Like, even if it's a mail that you have to type out, I'd much rather do it myself than use AI. And that's the only reason I wouldn't have used a Ghibli filter per se. I think it looks nice. I think one of the tweets from someone was, big day for ugly people, right? And given that my own self-esteem is what it is, I would definitely have used a Ghibli filter did I have access to it, because it looks cute at the end of the day, right? So I'm not very highly in the camp of one way or the other, and which is why I'm interested in your take on it, because you have a very definitive take, and maybe we'll start from there.
No, I don't think my take is very definitive and all, but instead of reading out my rant, as you put it, it's not so much a rant, it's more an observation, my cynical take on how people react to trends, and how you can quickly see that people fall into a few different camps whenever a trend sort of emerges, and this was no different. Right. So the AI filter got launched. People started exploring, flooding the internet with their pictures converted into the Ghibli format. Except if you have seen any of these pictures, or if you have seen a movie that was made in Ghibli format, example, My Friend Totoro, for instance, a beautiful film. It's ultimately animation, right? So the faces of people in these movies or in this artwork don't actually look like real faces. They do look like cartoon versions of faces with a certain aesthetic, a certain kind of face cut. So the thing with the Ghibli filter is, if you upload your picture and get it converted to Ghibli, the Ghibli version of your picture actually won't look like you. It will replicate the setting perfectly. So whatever's in the background, trees will get converted into Ghibli format. If you're wearing a blue t-shirt, you will get converted into a blue t-shirted person in Ghibli format. But that person won't necessarily look like you. He might look like a Ghibli avatar of you. So people are very thrilled to see these pictures, except that nobody is actually going to be as thrilled about these pictures as themselves, because those pictures don't look like anything, right?
Yeah.
And so people aren't just uploading the Ghibli photos they've created. They're also uploading the original picture, saying, "Hey, this was my picture, which got converted to Ghibli. Now please look at it." Right? Except nobody's looking at it. It's the same thing, right? So people are only interested in seeing their own images. Nobody really cares about what anyone else is doing.
No, but there's the other trend, which was, like I mentioned, that I didn't have access to ChatGPT 4 or whatever, 4.0, I think. And there were people on Twitter who became Ghibli bots, like Mufadal Vora, for instance.
You can pay them for getting your picture converted to Ghibli. Yes. So you had these trends, and internet is just flooded with this. Everyone's making random pictures, taking inherently average photos and making Ghibli versions of them, which is fine. If it makes you feel happy about yourself, then go ahead and do it. And then there were people who started creating memes, right? And there are a couple of examples that I want to call out. There's a picture of Salman Khan, I think from the film Andaz Apna Apna. I'm not sure which film it's from. So he's sitting in a car or something, and he's looking back and smiling, right? So, and the photo is taken from behind him. And in the Ghibli version of this image, somebody has actually put a beautiful Bambi type deer in front of the car. And Salman Khan is driving towards it without looking at it, right? And there's another picture of the Indian team celebrating after winning the 2011 World Cup, right? Lots of happy faces. Except in the original picture, you have Sehwag, and you have a couple of other players in the background. And you have Dhoni, who is going to receive the award in his sleeveless jersey. And you have Gautam Gambhir also in the background looking on. And the Ghiblified version of the image, everyone is smiling and happy except for Gautam Gambhir, who continues to look like Gautam Gambhir, right? Even in the Ghibli. So
in the most Gambhir format.
Yeah. So people are putting up these memes, and obviously, again, it's a different type of lookma to that first group of people. The first group of people are, hey, look at this, I'm in a Ghibli image. This group of people, hey, look how smart I am. I created this Ghibli meme, whatever. So it's all fine, right? People are doing this. And then there are the third bunch of people, which is the people who are virtue signaling. Right? Oh, this is like taking great art, and this is like commercialization and appropriation of someone's artistic, creative style without any dues or respect. And someone found an old video of that gentleman, Miyazaki, where someone was pitching AI to him. This was like many years back, and he says, "Oh, this is atrocious. I will never be okay with this, and you people should be ashamed of yourself." He's basically talking to the scientists who are pitching some kind of AI idea to him, and so they're like, "Oh, Miyazaki was always against AI, so we should also be against AI." And this Ghibli trend is. And then, of course, the fourth bunch of people are people like me, in this case, who would intellectualize this entire thing and say, "Oh, people are reacting in all these strange and different ways." The trend is not showing any signs of dying down. I think we'll probably give it another couple of weeks, after which people will get tired or realize that this is inherently quite pointless. That's what it is. And in the meantime, servers are melting. And by the way, now ChatGPT 4, whatever, the Ghibli filter is available for free use to everyone, so you don't need a paid subscription anymore.
Will you judge me if I Ghiblify or not?
Oh, please go ahead and Ghiblify. Who am I to judge? This was my favorite. Okay, there is also the fifth group of people, right, who will go on Twitter and go on Facebook and go on WhatsApp and say, "Oh, you're giving away your private data to public companies for them to misuse." So there's this one person who put out this tweet saying, "Did you guys realize that by voluntarily uploading your pictures to ChatGPT-3 to create these Ghibli images, you have just given them your facial data for them to take and abuse?" That fellow has his profile picture on Twitter. So somebody replied to that tweet with a Ghibli version. Said, "Sorry, I had to do this. They uploaded the original poster's image and converted it into Ghibli as well. I mean, who are these idiots? You've created a social handle for yourself on Twitter, ostensibly on the entire Facebook network as well, and everywhere else on the internet, and uploaded your images to it. But your comments giving it away to Chat GPT to create a Ghibli image of you is where you're giving away your private data. I'm very amused whenever people get paint about this private data usage thing, and they're like, oh, you're willingly giving away your data. And I'm like, boss, do you realize what you're using to communicate with me is the same internet, and whatever is here can already be used by whoever wants to use and abuse.
So what is your personal take? Like, where do you stand?
Yeah, I think it's fine, right? I don't think this is copyright infringement or stealing from an artist's plate.
It's not theft. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's theft because it's all very grey.
Unlike the Ghiblified images, which are not grey at all. They're very colorful.
Oh yeah, but in a slightly faux pastel kind of style. So even when you said you don't use Chat GPT or whatever for whatever work because you think it's much better to create something by yourself, I think there's a line you draw somewhere, right? There's nothing you truly anymore can create by yourself. Everything you do is derivative on something else. You're using some tool, some version of something that already exists, and typically without paying royalties, so to speak, right? Every time you put pen to paper, you should be paying the person who invented the pen, and the Chinese who invented paper, which we don't. So, I mean, it's a flawed argument in my opinion. No, it's true, right? Think about it. That's where I come from. And this whole thing about, because, he was against AI, etc. I don't care, man. It's fine.
Didn't he come out with a comment? Or is he dead?
I don't think... I have no idea. But there is this old video of his, which is what everyone seems to be quoting. Okay. Frankly, I don't think his opinion should matter. I don't think it matters.
On this point, there have been many takes, but I think like the one that I read most recently is the one by Sneaky Artist, and he made 3 points, and I do not necessarily agree with one. I agree with the other two, right? Which is, I think he starts off by saying it's theft, right? I don't know. I mean, like I am with you on this one. I don't know what is the line for theft, that, this, and the other. The second thing he says, though, is where I also land, is that you create things because it's fun for you, right? Like we are doing this podcast in this manner because it is fun for us to interact, and whatever output gets consumed by people. We would like it to be consumed by more people, but that's not the reason why we're doing it, right? Like it's not like we put on like insane amounts of filter or professional edits. Or it's not like we can't afford the professional version of Riverside and put out a better quality produced episode, right? We don't mind going through the hard yards of doing the edit ourselves, because in some senses that is fun for us also, right? It's not like we hire a professional producer to do it or anything. So to me, the joy of doing something is actually the doing itself, right? Which is one thing that he says, that at some time during childhood to adulthood, you flip a switch where you say you can only do stuff that you are good at, right? And it needs to be monetizable, which is not really the case at all, right? We do shit because it is fun for us, and usually it is something new periodically, right? Because you get bored of something that you do over a period of time. The other thing that he said was that because of this, right, and I think the biggest example is LinkedIn, is that your entire feed looks the same, right? Because I think LinkedIn introduced some version of thing called rewrite with AI or whatever, and everyone's post looks exactly the same. And this is that version for Instagram or whatever, right? So suddenly you're taking off context of why an art form was the way it was to just, making it a meaningless filter. And I agree with both those points in the sense that your feed didn't get enriched because of Ghibli images, right? As opposed to the other thing that was happening, which was, what is that guy's name? Ashton, whatever, who was dunking his face into cubes of ice and... You haven't seen that video? You're the only person to not see this video. Hey, this is literally the most watched video on Twitter now. Like really buff guy who gets up in the morning.
Oh yeah, like the 4 a.m. thingy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've only seen pictures of that. I'm not... See, there are certain parts of the internet that I try not to understand beyond a point. So this is one. There is this other thing, right, with Shreya Ghoshal. Have you been seeing the Shreya Ghoshal?
Yeah, no, those are some spam. That's spam, dude. That's like outright spam. It's
I don't know. Everything is spam at the end of the day.
No, those are ads. Those are ads, right?
Whatever they are. Yeah, sure. But who's putting those ads? Why is everyone getting them? Why is
so they're giving you a clickbaity thing, so you click on it and it leads you to some shady place from where they.
But why Shreya Ghoshal? But But why Shreya
Yeah, some
Ghoshal?
random thing, dude. Like it has to be like something that you think may not have been reported by the mainstream media, but you're curious enough to click it, right? So Shreya Ghoshal is a appealing thing in that sense. But wait, my point was
Yeah,
the meme of the previous week was that guy, right? What
yeah,
that
yeah.
resulted in was people doing their funny takes on it, right? And whatever was
Hmm.
the funniest thing would bubble up to your feed, and you will see more of it, and you'll get a rechuckle. Whereas the
Yeah,
studio Ghibli thing did the exact opposite, made your entire feed exactly the same. And like your first point nailed it, right? Like nobody cares about this except for the person putting it up,
yeah,
right? It's not entertaining. It's not anything. It's like, okay, I got this filter for myself. Great.
correct.
So I think that's a difference. Saying the internet has always been about additive memes, right? And like there are many
Yeah,
jokes that you don't necessarily get unless you are fully into the subculture of that thing, right? And
yeah,
and that's the great value where you're layering on and like creating something. For instance, if
correct.
someone walks into our cricket WhatsApp group, they will leave in 10 minutes because what are these fuckers laughing about, right? Like there will be layers and layers of context that you have to explain to someone to,
Correct. Yeah.
and probably then they won't find it funny still. But this has been built up
Yeah.
over a period of time where there was
Yeah.
one layer and then you've done this,
Yeah.
and it is funny as hell for the people there, right?
Yeah.
So what the internet should ideally result in more of is like jokes for yourself than mass produced meaningless shit, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that AI is doing, is that it is sort of doing the opposite. It is taking out the joy of the internet, which was really like
I agree.
finding
Yeah.
your son of Bosi fans who are like, and if you say what is that, Nanganallur tank or Abraham's tank or something, like
Yeah.
you could find
Yeah.
that person across the room and share a chuckle with them, right? So I think that's the big thing, that the context flattening means that everything looks like everything else, and then everything is boring
Everything
as
is
fuck,
everything
which is
else.
not.
No,
This
but
is the
really.
title of the episode. Everything is everything else.
But really, I wanted to talk about another podcast and this just came to me as you were explaining this great flattening sound, right? Where there's context with comedy, whatever. Why are you laughing?
You know who uses the phrase "great flattening sound," right?
One of those guys. I don't know who
Ajay
uses it.
Shah.
Ajay Shah only.
Obviously,
Of course,
Ajay
there you go. Yeah. That's why. So this is perfect. Everything is everything else. Indeed.
your brain is basically rewrite with Ajay Shah.
Rewrite with Ajay, not AI. Oh, artificial general intelligence. AGI is actually AJAY, dude. There you go.
AGI Shah. Okay, perfect. Huh.
Let's go back 10 years before Elon Musk took over Twitter. There was this wonderful podcast called Reply All. So I think it still remains my favorite podcast, though if I go back and listen to some of the episodes now, it probably doesn't live up to what I remember it to have been then. There was this segment in Reply All called Yes, Yes, No. I don't know if you remember Yes, Yes,
Correct.
No.
Of
You do, right?
course. Yes,
So
yes,
it's
yes.
basically,
Oh, isn't okay. Yes, yes, no.
was it Yes, Yes, Yes? No, it's called Yes, Yes, No. But yeah, you go to Yes, Yes, No.
Correct.
Yes, Yes, Yes. So it's basically the two hosts of the podcast, which is Alex Goldman
Yeah.
and PJ Vogt, trying
Yeah.
to explain an internet meme to the founder of Gimlet, or their super
Correct.
boss, which is what's
Yeah.
his name, Alex
Alex
Bloomberg. Yeah,
Bloomberg. Yeah.
who typically is this guy who's disconnected from meme culture, the internet, etc. So
Correct.
needs
Correct.
jokes to be explained to him. And these guys would spend like 20 minutes, 25 minutes trying to explain a four-panel,
Beautiful.
tweet with 4 images. And this was before, podcasts went video, before people started uploading podcasts to YouTube. So you actually could
Correct.
not see anything. So
Yeah.
they would actually explain a 4-panel
Describe
image to you.
everything.
They would describe it to you for 6 minutes. Then they would start explaining one layer upon another. And basically you go from yes, yes, no, which is two people know this and the third one doesn't, to yes, 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 where and the segment ends.
And you will get him to explain it back to you.
Finally understands the whole thing and explains it back to the host. Yeah, so that was a great moment in the internet. But yeah, you're right. That's gone now. Now what you're left with is images of Shreya Ghoshal and what you won't believe what she just did. It's so odd. One more thing I wanted to point out. This whole self-righteous group that was saying that, this is appropriation and you're taking away his art, you're hitting Miyazaki's livelihood or whatever. Mizuyaki is probably looking at all this junk and saying, I don't want anything to do with any of this crap. I'm glad that there is an AI that will do this shit work instead of me having to sit and paint frame upon frame of rubbish selfies and convert them into
Yeah,
Ghibli
but
art form.
I mean, I don't know if that's. There was this thing where they put out that video of 4-second video of like people. It's like a very crowded marketplace or something, and apparently it took them 2 years to put together that animation or something like that,
Sure.
as
Yeah.
opposed to this doing it like, right? So
No, so I have two thoughts. So on that point itself, right? I have two thoughts. One, and I know this need not apply to Mizuyaki, and nobody knows what his opinion on this matter is. But if I were Mizuyaki and I've created this art form, which by the way has made me super rich also because I've been doing this. It's given me fame. It's given me popularity. It's given me artistic fulfillment over the many decades of when I've been involved in creating this content, which has been converted into brilliant movies by other brilliant minds who have come forward and taken my ideas to fruition. This really would be the capstone for me, where the entire world is coming and dabbling in my palette, so to speak, and trying to
yeah,
create their own version of something. Obviously, it is special because not everyone has the skill to do what I'm doing, but they have these two. They have this tool now, which is giving them access to something that only I had access to earlier to create, their own versions, their own keepsakes on the internet. For me, as an artist, that would be one of the biggest validation points, especially after I've seen all the success that Mizuyaki has. Of course, I agree that this is
yeah.
need not be his point of view.
It is Miyazaki, by the way. I feel like he'll be more offended that you think Misayaki.
But that is perfect, right? Everyone who's putting out an opinion on this matter, including myself, don't even know how to pronounce his name correctly. So, and we're all speaking for him, including myself just now. So, I see you, I hear you there.
You know the term Luddites
Yeah,
and what it means today.
yeah.
What does it mean?
A Luddite is someone who sticks to the old what was glorious. So I
Yeah,
will
someone
not,
who doesn't
you
adopt
basically.
new technologies and
You basically.
swears by all things. But do you
Yeah.
know the origin of the word Luddite?
There was somebody called Ludd, is it? I don't know the origin
No,
actually.
so this was when handlooms were big in England, and then they invented power looms,
Hmm.
and basically there was this group of people who, and obviously the capitalists started making clothes with power looms, and then handloom people had a big problem because their craft was being taken away by machines. So they created this fictional character called Ned Ludd, and they called themselves Luddites, right? And they would like attack
Oh.
factories and like I think even kill people, right? And so this is the actual origin of the word Luddite. Which translates beautifully here because essentially you're saying that if as technology progresses, it gets more democratized, everyone gets to use it. But I think the
Yeah.
layer on top of that is then it means that it necessarily doesn't have artistic value, right? It's just that the average has now been raised to a different level,
Yeah.
but the high points or the high creators still get to differentiate themselves based on the talent that they have, potentially using being assisted with the technology that is available, maybe.
Yeah, or they perish, right? Or they find something else to do, which is fine. So if you say that there is this one scene that took I don't know how many ever days for
Yeah.
Miyazaki to create by hand, and which can be done now, which can now be done by the computers in the snap of fingers, then so be it, right? We should obviously move. Everything has moved towards more efficiency and things. The things that were artistic and great years back to create, or which were difficult to create many years back, are easier to create now. Buildings are easier to create now. Nobody is saying the masons should continue to give their sweat, blood, and toil and take a lot of time to create those buildings, right?
Right.
Why is it that certain art forms alone are held on a pedestal while the entire world is moving towards trying and making things easier, faster, more efficient in how they're being
Well, I
generated,
mean,
right?
so that's the point, right? Like, I think the point
Yeah.
of art is not efficiency, right? It is a different thing. For instance, I mean, I personally would be really sad if physical bookshops were to vanish, right? And realistically, the only way physical bookshops can continue existing today is if it's a charity project by the owner, because they are going to lose money on a physical bookshop, right? Because
Yeah.
A, nobody is going to walk into physical bookshops. B, nobody is going to necessarily buy from there either, right? Like your Amazons of the world have basically taken that over with one day delivery and whatnot, right? And you don't even need to step into a bookstore. But there is something about a bookstore, may not necessarily be its efficiency. It has a definitive character to it, whether it is the bookshop owner who recommends stuff to you and that is how you discovered things, or the way in which it is arranged, or just seeing people sitting quietly in a corner reading, etc., etc. That is a different value from it just being about efficiency, right? And I think the same holds true for art, is that if artists can only survive because the rich people fund it, then maybe there is something that we need to pause and consider, right? Obviously, the efficiency algorithm will not allow artists or bookshops to exist in that sense.
No, you're right. But this whole pedestalization of artists as some sort of morally superior profession, right? And there was this very interesting Twitter thread which I will share with you. This person called Palash, a bigger Spalash is his handle, at a bigger Spalash. So I'll just read out this tweet from him. Okay. So the thing I have learned about artists is that most of them believe in the lie that art is inherently a morally superior profession than anything else. That being an artist in and of itself is enough to command more respect than the next person. This does more harm to them than good. Over time, this lie morphs into hatred for everything else in the world, especially anything that makes money. Their art loses humanity, love, and redemption and becomes a vehicle for pointing everything that's wrong with the world. The artist inside them is already dead by then. If you are creating art, do it with humility, without entitlement, with a deep desire to tell fellow humans that life is worth living despite everything that's wrong with the world. That is the true job of an artist. If you can do just that, no technology will ever replace you. So I'm just coming from that place, right? So this whole thing that, oh, art is special, right? Art is putting their own soul into something so special. In some way, shape, or form, that is equally true for the plumber whose job has been taken away, or the BPO who's come and taken away some job, whatever. Right? Everyone's jobs have been impacted over the last few years by capitalism.
The difference is, again, going back to a pure sort of capitalistic framework of looking at it, right? A plumber is there to do a job, he fixes it, and then it's done. A work of art, on the other hand, can potentially touch many lives, right? And what is happening as a result of the capitalistic lens? Let's move away from the bookshop to the book writer, right? No longer can a novelist expect to make any amount of money from writing a book, right? Which essentially means that the great flattening has happened in the writing industry as well, where the only people who can afford to write is someone who has a steady job or something else, not necessarily the person who can write the best, because they are forced to find other means of an income, right? Which means you are, on average, your books have gotten worse over the years than it getting better, right? Let me point you to a quote of yours, right? I don't remember, this is probably from the copyright episode or something, and I want to say you probably said this before it appeared in various forms on the internet, that the job of AI is not to make art, right? It is to do my taxes better, it is to do my laundry, or it is to make me more efficient at things, so I can lend my time to more creative pursuits, right? This this is what you said back then. So yeah, okay,
Yeah.
go on.
No, I'm not. I still stand by that, right? The question of what is creativity and this whole argument on the Ghibli filter actually only reinforces that point, because any of the output that's coming out of it is inherently not artistic. I have not seen a single piece of art that has come out that has moved me, right? Out of the billions of pictures that is created. And I don't think I will either, because at the end of the day, it is basically a fun toy that people will play with for 2 weeks and will go away, because it's not creating anything of inherent value. So you're right. So it just exists. There's no need to. It is not the villain. It is nothing. It is an irrelevance. To your point about the quality of writing declining because it's not possible now for writers to make a living, the reality is the world has moved away from a need to read. Right? People don't want to read anymore. If the world doesn't want it and you're continuing to create it, it's like saying, oh, yes, the handloom that is created today is not as good as the handloom that was created 100 years back, because you have the power loom now, which does a better job, and the people want that output.
If you want like bespoke clothes, for instance, you still go to a bespoke tailor, right? Just that you have to pay more, right? The same is not true for art, right? You can't you can't say I can pay more, or unless I commission a book or like commission art like the Medici family used to do back in the day or whatever, right? Like it's not possible. So there is a difference.
It's the
How
same.
is
There
this?
is a smaller market now for art. There's a smaller market now for books. I don't know.
No, I don't think. One second. So I'll tell you the. Okay, let's go to the place where you're saying people don't want to read anymore, and then let's go to movies and let's look at what is happening to Hollywood. Where we've discussed this before is that the scale of industrialization or capitalistic tendencies has made it such that you need like large studios investing huge amounts of money, and then you have to necessarily end up with something formulaic, right? Like a superhero movie or something like that, which doesn't necessarily do anything for anyone. And I think this year's Oscars and maybe last year's also, the independent films have done well, but that's an aberration. That's not what is mainstream at all, right? On the mainstream, again, you've had a flattening of the quality of movies just by virtue of this whole.
I don't buy that. You're telling me that movies today are worse than movies that came out 10 years back. I don't buy that. And I don't think that's true. It's there. You always had a mix of good, bad, ugly. And
Okay.
sure, there will always be disproportionate amounts of money going into the effort to create a blockbuster, many of which will actually end up being bad films. And that has always been
Yeah.
true. It continues to be true today.
Yeah.
I don't agree that the quality of Hollywood's output is worse off today than it was 10 years back. The mix
So
is
you're
the same.
saying art has necessarily become better as technology has
That's
progressed?
an interesting question. I don't know. I don't have a point of view on whether it's gotten better, but it's definitely not gotten worse. At least in the movies. Since you brought up movies, I'm specifically talking about movies, right? Your point about books is it's slightly different, right? I don't think you can. I don't think the story is the same for every single art form that you create, because even now, people
Yeah.
who create paintings, right, at the higher end, at the sharper end of art, it remains a phenomenally sought after kind of pursuit, right? And works of art are exchanging hands for millions of dollars, and the popular
Yeah.
artists, whoever they are, whatever makes them popular, I don't know, they might be few in number, but they're raking it in, right? And they have fame, popularity, whatever. Absolutely. I don't know if there were more artists 100 years back than there are now, again, or more better artists 100 years back than there are now. I don't have an objective way to answer that question. And frankly, I don't think it
Yeah.
matters, because ultimately, right,
No.
it is supply and demand.
Yeah.
Right? If there is a market for something, it will exist. If not, it won't.
Yeah, some things will exist without a market also, like leftover lasagna. So let's go into the blockbuster that we were discussing and
Empuraan.
Empuraan.
Yeah.
Right, and around control, censorship, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
I think you and I will both agree with it. It's a fuck all movie. It's not worth the hype. And actually, if anything, this controversy has made it sure that they will rake in 100 more crores that they otherwise might not have, right? Because more people will
Probably.
just go to see what the
Yeah.
controversy is about. The first movie was done pretty well. I mean, in comparison, it was a masterclass because it was tying together multiple different things, including what you said about stars from other industries, right? And Vivek Oberoi actually carries that movie.
Oh my God.
As,
The word Vivek Oberoi and star was used in the same sentence for the first time since, I don't know.
He's done well. I
2000.
was
Dude.
no, so the last movie was Vivek Oberoi. This movie is Mera Gujarat Jal Raha Hai. That's the only difference.
Oh yeah, he was the guy who played Modi, right, in the Modi biopic.
Correct. Yeah. They laughed. I will say
Let's
it.
be clear.
Oh, fucker.
So
Such a great joke you butchered.
it's okay, da. Okay, let's be clear about this movie. It is basically a Telugu/Tamil film masquerading as a Malayalam film. That's pretty
Correct.
much all you can say about it.
Yeah.
There is a certain aesthetic polish to it, which I think the production and Prithviraj Sukumaran have brought in. And I would give the movie this much, right? There is a slightly more, they've given a little more attention to the detail about mythic mass building than you'd end up seeing in the average Telugu or Tamil film, and that's the genre this is trying to be. It goes closer to the SS Rajamouli kind of output than the more pedestrian, I don't know,
Yeah.
take names, but say Shankar or Murugadas or whoever those guys are who are creating a lot of rubbish stuff at the same time. But these are not great movies. right? Unlike
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
of course not.
stuff that's coming out of Malayalam
Correct.
cinema. And yeah, Mohanlal can sleepwalk through these roles. He literally sleepwalk through the role in this one because it's
Correct.
also
Absolutely.
slow motion walking.
Very slow motion.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
I don't
This
know.
is can you play a movie at 0.75x basically? Right?
Yeah, that's basically
instead of
what it
speeding
is.
up podcasts.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a movie you can play at 1.5x for sure and like
Yeah.
save time.
Yeah.
Like get back
Absolutely.
1 hour of your time.
Yeah.
No, but I think the only reason why we're discussing the movie is around the
The
contours
censorship
of
part, right?
artistic expression.
Yeah, which also I find a little hollow because at the end of the day, these films are actually commercial vehicles, right?
Absolutely.
And
Completely.
talking specifically about this one, I don't think Prithviraj Sukumaran and Murli Gopi were trying to say something deep or profound
Correct.
about the state of the country or take
Absolutely.
up cudgels against the ruling establishment. So, spoiler alert: the second part of this film, depending on when you watch it, I don't know how many scenes are going to be censored. But the second part of this film actually opens with scenes out of Godhra, where we all know
Naroda
what
Patia
happened.
massacre, basically. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So out of what happened in 2002, and that sort of sets the backdrop for what happens in this film. You actually have a guy called Babu Bajrangi, and I think there's an actual guy called Babu Bajrangi, right?
I think his name is Baba Bajrangi. No, he is Baba Bajrangi here, and I think the real guy is Babu Bajrangi or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So,
but with very similarly colorful track records of I don't know. I don't want to say more than that because we don't want leftover lasagna to get censored. Unfortunately, it's not going to get.
No, so let's go into the more interesting thing is that Mohanlal ended up apologizing, right? I don't know why Murli Gopi has not been asked to say anything at all, right? Suresh Gopi's name was removed from the title card.
And Gobi Manchurian was eaten during the making of this project. No, I think it's perfectly fine for Mohanlal to come and apologize. And if that then means this movie continues to run with fewer cuts and more people get to watch it, because ultimately Mohanlal is invested in this film and wants this movie to do well.
Correct.
Because
let's take it to the next step. I don't think this movie is particularly relevant. It is what comes after that is relevant in the light of the Kunal Kamra and this whole furor, right? And basically, Kunal Kamra put out a very poignant. What is the opposite word? Trenchant.
Trenchant. Yeah. Incisive and trenchant takedown of several things.
And here's his post: How to kill an artist, a step-by-step guide. Right. 1, outrage, just enough for brands to stop commissioning their work. Then outrage more until private and corporate gigs dry up. Then outrage louder so big venues won't take the risk. Then outrage violently until even the smallest spaces shut their doors. Summon their audience for questioning, turning art into a crime scene. Now the artist is left with only 2 choices: sell their soul and become a dollar puppet, or wither in silence. This isn't just a playbook, it's a political weapon, a silencing machine.
Yeah.
And the funny thing here is you will think there is some amount of exaggeration, except yesterday, the police have actually sent notice to the people who attended the show. Summoning them as witnesses to reveal what was said during said video, which is up on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't get this, man. Like this descends further and further into farce, right? So I think the moment that video came out, and some of us saw it when it was first, I think it's been taken down now, right? I'm not sure, but we all had the fortune of watching it before it got taken down. Before even the controversy erupted, a lot of people expected all of this to happen, and that's the sad and cynical reality, is that it's played out exactly that way.
Even he did too, right? Because he's like switched his address and stayed, and I don't think he's particularly fond of Tamil Nadu unless like there is some where there is a Villupuram, there is a way. That is basically what he did. Like
where there is a Villupuram, there is a Wayanad. He can even go to Kerala if you want. It's right there. And after this whole controversy broke out, there were goons who went and destroyed the auditorium and all of that, right? There were these other clips that were floating around by other comedians. And this now, I just realized, I'm not a huge
Varun
follower
Grover.
of the Indian...
Super.
Was that Varun Grover who said, people are saying you should be worried about what you're saying because they'll come for you?
Correct.
I'll be like, but hey, look at Kunal Kamra, he's still fine. Why will they come for me?
Correct है.
डर लगता है, उतना नहीं लगता, क्योंकि अगर मान लो इन लोगों के पास एक हिट लिस्ट है ऐसे 20 लोगों की, उसमें मेरे से ऊपर वाले अभी भी जिंदा हैं. तो जिस दिन मतलब कामरा मरेगा तब उसके बाद आएगा ना। कि मेरे पास पहले आ गया तो मैं बोलूंगा सर 5 मिनट है, आपके पास एक वीडियो दिखाऊं?
It's sad. It's so funny that it is actually sad, right?
Yeah.
That the
So-
self-awareness
so-
amongst these guys, they know that they're
Yeah.
operating on the edge of. It's very tough to do your. I mean, let's reserve judgment on whether they are funny, whether they're actually saying something that's
Correct.
hitting home or not. But having to do your profession under this kind of duress, this kind of awareness that you don't know where someone is going to come and knock on your door, must be quite something. And there's something to be said over there that we continue to exist in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at the chamber in which the artist finds themselves in, right? On the one side, you have AI basically saying, many of what you create is worthless, right? On the other hand, and this is true of all content in India, including what happened to, there were some good original series that came out on OTTs in India to begin with, right? Till that, I think one series came about and all hell broke loose. So much so that now all writers are scared to do anything political or anything remotely touching nerves that can be problematic, right? So you basically have the artist being squeezed from both directions. One to say, we will cut your wings, you're not allowed to think beyond this. And one to say, technology is what it is. Who would want to become, any of these things? It becomes essentially a pursuit of the privileged and necessarily less than optimal thing, right? When we speak of something like cricket and we say why India is set to dominate the next whatever number of years, it is because like you're able to bring unearthed talent from all parts of India, and it's become much more democratic. It has gone the other way, right? From the time when only Parsis would play cricket in India to now when anyone from any village has a potential to be an IPL player. The exact opposite thing has happened to art, where it has moved from something that was democratic, or it became democratic at some point in between when the privilege part was not necessarily, access was not necessarily restricted, to it going back to that stage again where it is only going to be for the nepo kids or the privileged or the wealthy enough to do it. And I think that's a sad space to be in.
I don't know if it's as dark as you're making it seem. I hear you. Firstly, I think the AI threat continues to be overstated, and if anything, the whole Ghibli thing only reinforces that belief for me that this is not that, right? So there is Miyazaki and there is the Ghibli AI filter, and they are not the same thing.
So Ashton Hall is the Miyazaki of our era.
Ashton Hall is the guy with the eyes. Got it. Yeah. So yeah, that's there. Now, as far as your example on your cricket and Bollywood, see, the market remains massive. The patronage remains immense. People will find a way, right? Even outside of the nepo kids to come and shine. It is true that for every person who succeeds, there will be hundreds and thousands that will fail. For every 100 that succeed, there will be 10 that will struggle to stay true to their artistic integrity and say what they have to, because the system is what it is. But that is the cost of doing that business.
On average, maybe it's a better time to make music than before. If you think about how A.R. Rahman came to prominence and like how he basically, I'm guessing, didn't necessarily do the conventional instruments or whatever, right? He had a lot of those technology enabled stuff. And I think it has only taken up a notch now. If you saw that, what is it, that rap video sent by that fan of, I want to say, the Pavilion show or whatever, right?
Oh yeah.
You only shared on the group there. Like, it has become.
But that was AI generated.
Problem.
But that was generated by AI. There you go. That guy said that.
No, was it AI generated or?
It was AI generated, yeah.
Oh, as in even the lyrics and everything.
Yeah. Someone actually, I think they even said that they used AI to create a theme song for the show. And that theme song was played. It was perfect. No yuck. See, this is where, you're actually the person who is, it is good. If it is good, it is good. If it is bad, it is bad. It's okay. True. Technology will generate stuff that will make you go wow at times. And that's fine. It's not going to take away, you're not diminished by the fact that you might have enjoyed it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's okay. Yeah, the world is changing, right? So 30 years back, pray for them, the strategy consultants used to create slides on actual transparencies and use projectors to beam them, right?
OTP, overhead
projectors.
OPT
Imagine the amount of effort that the analysts back then would have to have created, would have to have put to create those slides. And then they had PowerPoint, which really was the chat GPT of
Can we get
the
rid of that? Yeah,
2000s. Right?
seriously.
Yeah, so then they moved to PowerPoint, right? And people said, oh, now the analyst job is going to be taken away because, they have this tool with which it's very easy to create slides. What happened? The same number of analysts continued to work. They just created 1,000 more slides. They created more junk, which was worthless.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying that ChatGPT can create those slides. You don't need PowerPoint itself. All that's going to happen is you're going to have another 10 million slides to consume. And you can sit in. All the people who were reading in lending libraries can instead sit and read PowerPoint projections. No.
So there's this thing that I had said before, but I realized like it's a premise of an entire book called Bullshit Jobs, right? Which is that Keynes had predicted 100 years ago that by now humans would only need to work 15 hours a week, right? Why do we continue to work so many more hours? It's because you need bullshit jobs to give you meaning and like for society to remain in order, because otherwise there might be a revolution, etc.
We've spoken about this also. I don't think there's anyone who does more than, forget 15 hours. I don't think people do even 10 hours of productive work in a week. Yeah.
Correct. So what will end up happening is not that you will read in lending libraries reading. It will be that ChatGPT will create 350 slides, which then will get sent over to your end, and you will use a ChatGPT equivalent to say summarize this into 5 bullet points, which the AI will do, and the rest of the time you're around the coffee machine or playing pool or whatever, right? So bullshit jobs will continue to rise. You're right. And the number of hours spent doesn't necessarily mean anything to anything anymore, right? I mean, it never did, but it's like all the more apparent now.
Exactly. So there are two ways in which this works, right? As technology takes over more and more aspects of productive work, there are two things that people need to do, right? The truly creative and progressive amongst us will find new ways to be creative, productive, and valuable. The others will find new ways to act like they're being productive, creative, and valuable. So,
correct. Yeah.
And this is a constant. This has always been happening. It will continue to happen. That's pretty much it. In the process, jobs will be lost. Industries will close. New industries will emerge. New jobs will emerge.
Yeah. Wow, we've solved the world problems also. Wait, tell me, do you use AI? What do you use AI for?
I don't use any AI. Forget AI or real AI. What do I use AI for? Nothing. I don't use AI.
Correct.
This I must say, I used Grok, right? Twitter, which by the way, that fucker is put behind a paywall now. It used to be free like till last week.
Who? PGK?
Elon Musk, GK. It suddenly has gone behind a paywall. It used to be free. Grok used to be free. At Grok, I basically gave Grok like a 500-word summary of my lower back issues. Okay. And it gave me a wonderful step-by-step kind of diagnosis of what might be going wrong with me. Is it a muscle issue? Is it an imbalance issue? Is it a iliotibial band issue? It also told me why it is making each of the suggestions that it was making, what the prescribed next steps are in terms of treatment, or, if I wanted to just do physiotherapy, what I should do. I used, so that was one thing that truly blew my mind.
Going straight into.
Yeah, I tried this with multiple different AIs. So I did this on ChatGPT. I did this using Gemini, whatever, and on Grok. And Grok is the one that truly blew my mind. It wasn't giving me random summaries from the internet. It actually gave me stuff very synthesized and very, very logical stuff. So,
did you check if any of those were hallucinations? Sometimes AI models apparently make up fake references also.
No, I didn't even check the references. This was more, I questioned it on why it was saying certain things. And it was full of humility, by the way, in the way it explained stuff. And said, very clear that, hey, you should still go to a doctor. Please don't believe everything that I'm saying or any of the GPTs, etc. But
no, you know what he should do? He should create a rude version and make that free. For the humble version, you pay. The rude version is insult you, like just beat down your self-esteem, but give you the answers.
Oh, this is a new trend now on internet, right? Where whenever someone makes a claim on Twitter, you immediately see that 2 or 3 people reply by tagging
"Hey Grok,"
"Hey Grok" or "Hey Perplexity," or both. If Grok says something and it doesn't conform to their worldview, then they will ask Perplexity to cross-check what Grok.
Okay, so I think we have rumbled through the jungle. Hopefully, the magic of an AI editor will do something to this.
Ghiblify this podcast, please.
Okay, on that note, this was, I think, episode 36 of Leftover Lasagna with Nitin and Tony. Thank you for staying with us. Also, guys, we actually would like a larger audience, despite what we.
Oh, shit, Tony, you should have told this to our listeners before. You've been telling we are very happy and we have not been getting listeners. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you stayed till here, this is the real confession, guys. We would like validation from more people. Please share it with like-minded folks. Also, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Do all the good things, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Since you may not know this, but FY 2025-2026 is upon us. And if you recommend this podcast to 5 of your friends and convert them into listeners, then NIRMALA Thai is going to give you a tax rebate. So
Correct.
please.
It's not AI, but it's Thai that's taking over.
Yeah, indeed.
On that note, see you on episode 37. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.